So I want to introduce to you Kurt Dupont, who I know very well. And Kurt is my boss and the founder of PresentationPoint, which is a company that provides world-leading software for digital signage, data-driven presentation, and real-time dashboards, which I think he's going to talk a bit about today. He's been doing this for over 21 years, so he's been in this field a long time. And his software is used by clients like NASA, SpaceX, Nikon, IBM, Sony, and many other world-renowned companies. So, and he's going to show you how to create data-driven dashboards in PowerPoint. So take it away, Kurt.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Carlin, can you enable screen sharing?
Will do.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and even good night to some of you. I'm Kurt Dupont, and I'm going to talk about how to create data-driven dashboards in PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm Kurt. My last name is French. I live in Flanders, so I'm Flemish, and I speak Dutch as my mother tongue. But all my life, I'm working and using data. And everyone is using data. You have raw data. When you go to school, you get your results. That's data. When you go to work, you have sales data, production data, etc. So all days long, you are receiving data. And probably most of you that are watching this session are PowerPoint designers or using PowerPoint frequently. And basically, you're always using raw data and you are creating a great slide out of it. So data becomes important. So that raw data can become a result, a target, or a milestone, or even a key performance indicator, as they call a KPI, because of your design work in PowerPoint. So that silly number that you got from a database or from an Excel is coming to life in your presentation. That's very important. And typical about numbers is that numbers will change. Your score will change, the sales results will change, etc. So if you have a slide where you introduce your company or a product, then that product description is always fixed. It can stay on the slide for years. The text where you explain that product is completely fixed. So, but numbers, when you are talking about reporting on slides, etc., then the numbers will vary every day, every week, every month. And people have repetitive tasks because they have to update a presentation on a weekly basis for the management or the salespersons that are on the field out there, etc. So there is a lot of repetitive work on numbers and figures. Okay, let's move on. A sample of a data-driven presentation. Here you see a check-in monitors at an airport. And basically what you see there on the screen is a presentation. It could be a PowerPoint presentation. And it could be a PowerPoint presentation that is connected to a database or a data source to display the information in real time. So you see here that you can separate the data that you have somewhere on a server, and you have at the right, you have the presentation that you design. Okay. And we have a tool called DataPoint, which is a plugin for PowerPoint, where you can merge the data into a PowerPoint presentation. So you can link flight information on a slide. And it's not only about flight, it's about sales figures. Any number that you have in the organization, you can use it and link it with DataPoint to your slide. So DataPoint can connect to a list of data providers. So a typical example is a weather API that we are using. So you can connect a weather API, or no, sorry, you can connect a slide to a weather API, and you can display the weather information and the forecasts of your city. No? The same you can do for RSS feeds. So you can go to your favorite newspaper, get the URL of the RSS feed, and then display the news in real time on a screen. And those are the typical examples that you all will recognize, but you also have connections to databases, Microsoft Access, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, etc. And even you can link to social media like Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So DataPoint is able to connect to some 25 data providers. Once that you have a presentation linked to a data source, then you have the advantage that when you open a presentation, it will update the information. So if someone is updating the information in an Excel sheet, when you open that linked presentation, which is linked to that Excel file, when you just open the presentation, you will see the latest numbers. So there is no discussion anymore in the organization if you are using the latest numbers. It's linked to the data source, and there can't be a mistake in the presentation. So it updates when you open a presentation, but you can also run the slideshow, and then you see continuous updates. So how can you use this, or how can you display a data-driven presentation? You can use it on your individual computer, where you just open the presentation and look at the latest numbers. You can set up maybe a dedicated screen at the coffee corner of the company, or the reception desk of the company, or in the factory, where you display a real-time data-driven presentation with KPIs, just to entertain and inform people. What you also can do is create a snapshot presentation. And a snapshot presentation is basically an up-to-date presentation that is just refreshed with the latest information from the data sources. And then it's disconnected as a temporary presentation that you can send out to the customers and colleagues, etc., who do not have DataPoint or do not have access to the databases. Okay, so the features of DataPoint is that you can set up data connections to data sources. You can bind shapes. So here we think about texts, text boxes, tables, charts, images, etc. You have data caching for fast performance. You have data scrolling, where you can display more information on one virtual slide. You can hide slides when there is no data. You can set up rules and conditions where you maybe put a number in red if it goes higher than 100 or something. You have notification sounds where you can get more attention when a value is changing, and you have text to speech if you want to give instructions. Of course, the benefit is that it works with PowerPoint, because PowerPoint is the best presentation tool on the world. You have automated content because it's linked. It's ideal for regeneration. So once that you have done the effort to link your presentation to a database or an Excel file, you're finished. Every opening of that presentation, next day, next week, next month, or whatsoever, is just for you, the opening of the presentation, and you will have the latest information. So it's ideal for regeneration. And when you have done the job of the linking, then you're done for all the future weeks. Normally, without DataPoint, people are doing a copy paste of data into the PowerPoint. So every week they have to open an Excel file, they have to get the information, maybe they have to make a phone call to make sure that the latest information is in the Excel file, and then they can start copying that Excel data into PowerPoint. And you will make mistakes, you will forget text boxes. So that's another advantage. You have always up-to-date content that I've told already. People love to look at screens, because when you enter a building and you see a screen, you're always looking what's on the screen. Is there some information on that screen for me? What's new, etc. And we have also other software where you can distribute and schedule a presentation to various screens in the organization. So if you have multiple offices, multiple factories, you can, from your desk, you can send out a presentation to a specific screen on a specific time to inform people. Okay, here are some samples. So you can use a counter at a bank here on the left, where you just display a number. People are taking a number from the ticket dispenser. They get maybe number 18 or 19, and then they look at the screen for service desk 1. I'm next with number 19. So that's an example. A good example of real-time and crucial data-driven presentation is flight information, as you can see on the right, where you display flight information updated every second. Very crucial for operations. Here is a customer of us, that's Sotheby's. They are displaying a auction information on a screen there in real time. Here another one with a scoreboard. Here you see a video wall of multiple screens. That's one big simple PowerPoint presentation that is sent out to those screens there. This is an airport check-in monitor. And here are some other examples. So here on the left, you see a real KPI dashboard. They are displaying real-time numbers and different formats, also updated every second. That specific client is reading the information from an XML data file to display the information. They have lights going on and off if there is a alarm or something to trigger. Here at the top, you see a dashboard. Sorry, I have to go back. You see a dashboard or a floor plan where you display again some KPIs, and you have some indicators here, green and red, on some equipment. And you can display some alarm signals that you have on the equipment. So this is all built in DataPoint. You can just draw a floor plan on your slide and then put a shape or a rectangle on that slide and link it to a database to get it colored by rules, etc. And what we see here is a recent implementation of a PowerPoint. So what you are seeing here on the two LEDs is a PowerPoint presentation running in Antwerp, Belgium. They just opened a tunnel in the city, in the heart of the city, and they are using PowerPoint and triggers to display different information. So they have other LEDs there to display text remarks like fork, or they can change the speeding information. And here we go into some slides that can be used in factories, where you can display again KPIs visually on screen for the personnel. So these are just some examples. Okay, this is the introduction, or this was the introduction. Now we are going to use DataPoint, and we are going to display real-time information in a PowerPoint. And it's very easy, you will see, because PowerPoint is already, you're already familiar with PowerPoint, and DataPoint is just 10% of functionality that we add on top of PowerPoint. Let me stop this presentation. And first of all, I have to explain to you, we don't have a factory here, and we are going to build a data-driven presentation for factories. But we don't have a factory, so we have to simulate a factory. So what we have done is we have a MySQL database, can be any type of database, but we have created one database where we have one table here, TBL meter. And basically we have a list of rows in there with a number here, an ID. We have a minimum value and a maximum value, and we have a current value. So what we have done is we have created a utility to do random updates on the database. So we simulate basically the factory that we don't have. So when I check this, it starts updating the database, and you see here the number of updates that it is doing on the database. So when I refresh the information, you will see value 1377 here, and I refresh again, and now we have another value. So this small tool running here on my PC is updating the information in the database. And we are going to visualize this information in the PowerPoint. So let me open this presentation. Okay, so, and I need my database connection information like so. Perfect. So we have designed this presentation. It's a dashboard in PowerPoint. Everything is created in PowerPoint. Let me clear this. Okay. And we put some dummy text in here. So this is created in PowerPoint. And these are shapes that we put on the image. So this is the wrong one. I have to select this one. So this is the needle. It's just an image that we have positioned on top of another image where we have the scale of the equipment that we are going to monitor. So let me undo. So there it is. So that's how we have set up these meters. And here we have some lights that we are going to change dynamically. Okay, so after the installation of DataPoint, you get a new item here in the PowerPoint ribbon. So we all know PowerPoint, normally it ends here at help. So we have DataPoint installed on the system, and we can link now to databases. So I click here at the list connections button, and I get a list of all the data providers that I have in DataPoint. So I'm looking for a MySQL data provider, which is here, and I can add a connection. So now I have to identify myself, and I have to connect to the database. So I'm copying now the information. I'm not sure if I copied it. No, that's correct. And the database name. That's all we need. So we have a server name, a username, a password, and the name of a database. And that's typically what we need to connect to a database. So here we can just check, and it's allowing our connection, so everything is fine. So this is my database connection. I click rename, and I can say my factory, for instance. So that's the name of that data connection. Now I click add query, and I get a list of all the data objects that I have at a database. So remember, if we look at this database, you only have one table in there. So that's what you see in here. If you have multiple tables on the database, you will see here a larger list of data objects that you can use. And also, as well, you can see the views that you have defined on the database. And if the table or the view is not sufficient, you can use this custom SQL statement option, where you can write your own custom SQL and test it and use it. I'm fine with this. By default, DataPoint is refreshing every 60 seconds. That's way too long for our critical data-driven dashboard. So we will put this to 1 second, or you can even, if you want, you can put it to 0.1 second, or to do every 100 milliseconds a refresh. 1 second is fine for us, and we click OK. And now we see a preview of all the information that we had at the table here in PowerPoint. So we can see the same information And we can start using this information now. I give it a name, let's say random numbers. So now we have that information in memory in our presentation. And now we have to use this on the text boxes. So let me start by this. And this is not something that we are going to connect to the database. No, this is just the clock. I want to display a clock, and I can choose to display it like so. Now I have to lower the font size like so, or I can use another format where I have the 24 hours without the AM, PM, and so on. So that's customizable. Okay, then we are going to this meter. And important is that we turn the needle to the minimum position, because it's just a needle that is rotated or is going to be rotated based on a value from a database, but we have no information yet about how the needle is pointing to that scale on the background. So I have this needle selected, I go to DataPoint, and then I have here this meter option. I can see a list of all the connections that I have in memory in this presentation, currently only one, because we only had one query set up. So I select this one. Then you get a list of all the column names that you have in the database. So let me go back. So we have ID, description, minimum value, maximum value, and current value. That's exactly the same as you have here, ID, description, minimum, maximum, and current. So those are the column names returned from the table that we have selected. So we are going to display the current value. And we see a preview here of 20. So at this time, with our random update is still running in the background, and it's probably already, it has changed the value, but that's fine. Okay, so row number 1, and we are going to change the rotation of the selected shape. The value, and then we have to go back to the database. The range for the random update program is ranging between 0 and 100. So I can say to him here that he can use 100 as the maximum value. And I click now this button here, use the current rotation of shape as the minimum rotation, because that's what I've done. I've turned the needle to the minimum position. So I click OK. It's not yet doing anything. And now I click OK, and now it's binding that information to that needle. It's rotating a little bit, but it does not really know where the maximum is. So we pick up the rotation symbol here again, and we rotate the needle now to the maximum, which is there. I go into the meter settings again, and now I click this button, use the current rotation as the maximum value. So we have 20 as a value, 0 till 100, so 20 should be going there. So I click the maximum, this is the maximum position, and we click OK, and that's 20 on our scale. Okay, so this is the first meter that we have linked dynamically to the database. Maybe just as a test, let me run the slideshow. And maybe I also have to explain that while you're designing the presentation, you maybe have a connection to a few databases, etc. But while you are designing, the information is not updated in real time because you want to work, of course. Yeah? So DataPoint logic, or the real-time updating, only comes to life when you run the slideshow. Okay, so the clock is updated, and now we see the meter or the needle is going down to probably 7 or 3 or something. And so the random update program is updating or giving the database a random value at random times. And here DataPoint is reading that information out every second and then visually updating that information. So we can do it differently. Without a dashboard, we would have used a text box. So here's a text box. We go to DataPoint, text box, and here I can display that same value here. I can use the text here, the text tab, and I can put some prefix text. Current database value, something like this. And then you get this text. So let me place this here. And we run the slideshow now. And now we can see or verify the numeric value that we have in the database compared to what is drawn on the meter. So there was a quick update. So this is how it typically is done. For example, like those flight information screens where you have an estimated time of arrival, just a number. But this is much more powerful because you have a graphical representation of your data, and that's a dashboard. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to remove this text box here. We can do the same here. I just have to pick a number from the database. Let's say we are going to use row number 3 where we have 1 to 100. Rotating to a minimum, meter again. Current value, row number 3, that's the value currently in the database. The maximum value is 100. This is the minimum location. Let me check. Yes, this is the minimum. So I click here and I click OK. Turn the knob to the maximum location. This is the maximum location. And then we get 73 as a value plotted here on this one. This is a little bit different. We don't have a scale, so we don't have a number from 0 to 100 or from 1 to 100. We have a Boolean, so that's a switch on or off, open or closed. So that's very simple. So we can use row number 2 for this. First of all, I have to turn this to off. I go to meter, current value of row number 2. This is the minimum location. That's the maximum location of position. And there it is. So now when we run this slideshow, we will have 3 dynamic meters on the screen. And you can see now at the first and the second meter that we have that you have a gradual position change. So if you have a value, the meter is just like in a car going to that new position very smoothly. The on-off switch is, because it only has 2 values, is more direct. So it's just jumping from off to on. Yes, okay, perfect. We continue. This is an image. This is just an image that we have here on the file system. So we have a 1 PNG file, a 2 and a 3. These are just PNG files with a transparent background. And we are going to display information. So we place it here. Now we have to go back to the database. And we have foreseen this row here, row number 5, ranging from 1 to 3. Because we have 3 colors or statuses that we can use for the images. So I select the image, I go to picture. I want to show the current value of row number 5. There it is. And now we have to say to DataPoint what information is in that cell. So current value of 5, let me check, current value of row number 5 is holding 2. And 2, when you look at the file system here, the folder that we have, the 2 is just the file name of the image. So DataPoint is asking the data of the selected column contains, and you can choose folder, file name, and extension. No, that's not true. Folder and file name, no. File name and extension, almost. No, it's only the file name. So now we have to help DataPoint. We have to say that the extension is a PNG file. And because it's in the same folder, it's already working. But if you need it, you can, or if the image is placed on another folder, you can also specify the folder. And then you have this information. So this is now dynamically linked to the image. And let me do this as well. Value, row number 6, pasting the folder and the PNG file as an extension. And this one again. And we have to use row number 7 here. Okay, so when we run this slideshow, then we will see some updates on the buttons. So you can display alarms and you can visually display another image. We have other customers that are checking the production level compared to the targets that they have set up. And if they are on target, they are displaying, for example, a thumb up or a thumb down if it's not getting that result or the target, just to visually inform people and give more direct information without looking at the numbers. Okay. And then here we have another type of meter that we can use. It's again something on the background where we have that meter, and then another shape with rounded borders like so. This is a meter where we are not going to change the rotation, but we are going to change the height of the shape. So to start, we have to put this to the maximum value. So we go to meter now, current value from a database, and now we have to check the value in the database. So let me take this one, number 4. Row number 4 goes here. The value is ranging from 0 to 100. And we are going to change the height. So that's important. So not the rotation as we did before, but the height. And then we set it to 100 again. And then we click here, use the current height of the shape as the maximum height. So he knows where that scale is ending. So this is 0, this is 100. So this is projected on the maximum size. So this button I click OK, and now we have this value on the slide. So here you saw it updating. And there we have some new information coming in on the meter there. Okay, there are some more objects on this slide, but they are all similar. We have some meters here again, and here's some different images that we can display, or here, like in a car, you can display icons, and based on a value in the database, you can display that image or you can turn it off. So maybe I see some chats coming in. So maybe we can have a look at the chat session here. Colin, are you watching as well? Still with me? That's from before the start.
Yes, I'm still here, Kurt. I have been replying to the chats. A lot of them are about the recordings. Everybody wants to be able to see what's gone on afterwards.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about whether the slides would be available, and a lot of what Kurt's doing right now are slides that won't work without the data, with the data connections and data points. So,
yeah.
Yes, we will be doing a recording afterwards and make it available to everybody.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, we will put the recordings on the website in our blog section, and as well on the YouTube channel of PresentationPoint within a few days. So yes, it's true. And basically DataPoint is an add-on or a plugin to PowerPoint. So without DataPoint, you can still do your great design work in PowerPoint, but the needles are not going to update. The text boxes are not going to update. So that's DataPoint that you have to install on the system, and DataPoint runs on Windows Office only, and it comes. You can always download the 15 days free trial, and if you like it, if you can use it for your company, we have a interesting subscription based license model where you can really automate this and save time on the updating of your slides. So this is a real time saver for many, many, many companies. Are there more questions? I'm more or less finished. So maybe if we still have some time, Garland, interrupt me if some important messages need to be answered from the chat.
There is a question, Kurt, from Arnaud from Belgium. He says, is there any option to set up the transition between the data updates? Example, to choose between smooth or hard transitions?
Between the slides, Garland?
Between the data updates, he says. Arnaud says.
No, that's basically not possible. Because you're displaying that same slide continuously, or as long as you have set it up in the slide. So you can, of course, duplicate the slides and different output on the slide. And of course, when you have a dedicated slide, you will have to set the slideshow to a kiosk mode, and you have set the transitions to, let me move this away. So you can have, you have to set the transitions to automatically after so many seconds, because you have no one physically presenting this on a dedicated screen. And then you have the transitions and the animations that you have on the slide. But if you only have one slide, or you're displaying for 20 seconds long one slide, you have no replay of the animations or the transitions there. If that's answering Arnold's question.
Yeah, hopefully if it didn't, he'll give us some clarification. Johnny Quinn says, can we play different videos depending on values from the database?
Yes, that's also possible. Just like the images, you can insert a video and you can update or link that video, the source from the video, via this shape here. So you insert a normal video, you link the path of that video to the value that you have in the Excel file, for example, or the text file, and then you can change that Excel file from a second computer, put in a new file name, and then you will see that the new video will play back next time. So that's also possible. And the same goes for charts and so on.
Linda Gross has a question. Kurt, are there any financial planners that use this to show the stock market ticker tape display?
Yes, there are definitely people using that information. And typically, you can get in the information from XML services, web services, where you can connect to. There are free resources. There are resources with very high frequent updates on the data. And then probably you have to pay for that API that you access. But there is always something that you can address and display that information in real time.
Linda, I'll mention as well, if you go to the PresentationPoint.com website, there's in the case studies area, there's a case studies as to how one of our clients is using it to create data-driven proposals for his customers. So
yeah, that's true. You can find some case studies here on the website.
Linda says, great to hear, we need to talk. Okay. So.
That's nice of Linda. She's probably...
So she's a wealth manager who might need this. Yes, definitely. Look at, I think it's Kevin Gallandy from Bayside Associates. And he said it used to take him about 8 hours to put these proposals together. And now it's done in almost no time at all. So
yeah, true. And maybe we have some time more, some more time. You can display this information in real time. And what you also can do is you can generate a snapshot presentation. So when you click this button here, it will basically create a new temporary presentation. It's an archive presentation that you can save and send out to your customers or colleagues. So if you're running a factory, you can save this presentation as a snapshot and you can say, this was the situation at 10:45 a.m. in the factory. So that's the snapshot functionality there. Also, what we have is data scrolling, and data scrolling is very unique. If you have multiple rows in the database, you can use the first row on one slide, you activate data scrolling, just like RSS feeds of a newspaper, and then you can display multiple rows on the same virtual slide. So basically, you can display row 1, the data from row 1 for 8 seconds, then the data of row 2 for 8 seconds, and so on. So all with creating just one slide and then creating virtual slides or doing that mail merging functionality.
now, Kurt, Jude is asking, will that work with PowerPoint on the web?
No, it's only working on Windows PowerPoint versions and only on the desktop applications. That's because of the technology that we are using there. That's limited to those restrictions. Was there another question coming in, Garland?
I'm not sure. Herman just wrote some numbers of some sort. I don't know what that was about. Linda had asked me for that name again, so I just typed it into chat. If you hold on, Linda, I can probably get you the link as well. Sorry, it's just when I get this watching Kurt's screen and then trying to find stuff on my screen. So I'll throw the case studies link into the chat for people who want to see that. And oh, yep, Kurt's got the Bayside Associates up. So yeah, and Kevin's just great to work with. So he's based in my home province of Alberta, Canada. And if you scroll down a bit there, Kurt, so he used to spend hours and hours, he said about 8 hours doing this. He pulls information in from various insurance companies and finance companies, all the different spreadsheets and different things. And he's using this to assemble proposals that he does. And see, his presentations are customer specific. So he's not just doing a general presentation. He's doing a presentation for that customer, for their age, what they'll need at retirement, for their current portfolio. So he's pulling all that information in, and he's giving them, you know, an amazing, you know, customized full presentation. And that's really powerful that it's going to have their information, their portfolio, and those kinds of things. So Linda was born in Edmonton as well. so yeah, I'm from Edmonton, Linda, and you're living in Lotus Land, which I assume is somewhere in BC. I lived on Vancouver Island for 14 years, so I just moved back a couple of years ago. So yes, small world, and so you must be in a different time zone now if you're attending this, Linda. So. Yeah, so the case studies are great to look at, guys, because it really, there's a huge amount of stuff. And these are real life people using this. And I love assembling these because it's so much more powerful than we say, well, you could do this. Instead, we say, well, here's what's being done. So yeah, it's 2 in the morning for Linda. Yeah, for me too, Linda. It's 2 in the morning for you. It's almost 3 in the morning for me now here in Edmonton. So yes.
We have some fans, Garland.
Yes. Well, we found that when we did the North American time zones too. We had people from Europe and India and Asia, you know, people who were up at 2 in the morning. So yes, that was very, very powerful. Yeah, the case studies are great. And I love that too, because often if we say to a client, if a client says to us, how do we do this? Or can this be done? We just point to a case study. We're supposed to ask Kurt about his chicks. According to Linda.
Probably something private, I guess.
Okay.
I know Linda from the presentation summit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Sabayashi says the real-time data transition can relate the new database created simultaneously. I'm not sure what he meant there.
Can you repeat the question, Garland?
The real-time data transition can relate the new database created simultaneously. So I'm not really sure what means. The data just changes.
Like contact me directly or send in so that we can look into this question specifically.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, send Kurt a note. The support team is awesome about about replying to things, and if you have what if ideas and stuff like that. I'll mention too, since Kurt may not mention it, but for those of you who are in the field where you create PowerPoint for a living, we do partner with resellers of our software. So we have local people who connect. Who work with clients, who use our software to build solutions for their clients. And we're happy to work with you guys on that. So if you've got an idea and you're not quite sure if it can be done, we can probably find a way to do it.
No. And maybe I can show you how you can download the trial of DataPoint. So you just go to the homepage and then you click software and then you have DataPoint here. And then here you can buy it. But first of all, you click here to subscribe and download the trial. So just try it out, install the setup, you get a new DataPoint item in the PowerPoint ribbon, and then you can start using and linking to your databases and files.
Any more questions, anyone?
We also have a resources page on the website here with some useful information. So first of all, we have some free templates and some premium digital signage templates that you can use. We are explaining what digital signage is, and maybe let me give you some info on that. Digital signage is basically the presentation that you have made dynamic can now be sent to screen. So we have software where you can schedule to display a given presentation on a given monitor at a given place and so on, and still display that information in real time. The data is still updated. So that's the digital signage software. You can find some information about computers that you can use for this solution, some PowerPoint integration. So here we have some links to financial data, weather information, and so on. And we can help you with any of the data linking problems or projects that you have for your company.
So Jenny says that was a great presentation, very exciting tools, thanks. And then Johnny Quinn says, can you explain how this works on smart TVs?
Yes, smart TVs, 2 ways. So basically, a smart TV, data-driven cannot be used without a computer on a smart TV. So if you want to have something like flight information or KPIs of a factory, you need to attach a small computer to the system and then display that information. So that's just like a computer setup. You have a screen and you have the computer. What Johnny is maybe referring to is a solution that we have to send out presentations, but then maybe a snapshot presentation or a completely static presentation to a smart TV. So we have a solution where you just use a smart TV, you install an app just like the Netflix app, and then you can send a PowerPoint presentation to that app. So you don't need a PC. We are converting, we are placing that PowerPoint on that TV, no computer attached. It's using that smart TV, that smart thing that is inside of the computer. You have a Wi-Fi connection. So that's all you need to connect to our cloud, and you can send it that way. But that's unfortunately only for static presentations. So you have to update this maybe every day and then send out that static snapshot presentation to that smart TV. But that's a great option to use PowerPoint as well for your information channels.
I should mention as well that the computer that can be attached to a TV can be really small. Like there's these palm-sized compute sticks, or they're called stick PCs, that just plug into the HDMI port and the USB port. Yeah, Kurt's got it up there.
Yeah.
So they're not very big and they hide behind the TV. So it's not like you have to dedicate a whole full-blown computer to to be the player for this. So
no, that's true. And this Intel compute stick, which is in one hand, costs around €150 or $150. So and it has Windows 10 on that system. So it's a very affordable solution for digital signage. So
any other questions for Kurt?
And we also have a great blog section on the website where you find more examples of what you can do with this great software. For example, here, a recent article is where you can show or update the number of people who are entering your shop. And because of the COVID-19 regulations, you have to stop people from entering. So you have to update how many people that you have in the shop. And if you have reached the maximum capacity, you just display this on a screen and people will wait outside before they can go in and someone is exiting the shop again. So that can be found on the blog articles. So
great,
my
thanks,
time
Kurt.
is, sorry?
Thanks, that's awesome.
Yeah, my time is up almost. So